Hi guys, welcome back to Enginerds YouTube channel. My name is Patricia Bermudez and I will be your host for today's video. And for today's video, I will teach you guys how to remember Maxwell relations in thermodynamics. So this data sheet is actually from Perry's Chemical Engineering Handbook. Okay? And for this video, we will be focusing on how to remember this as well as this. Okay? So for that, we have to know that we are dealing with four properties here. Okay? So yung properties that I'm talking about are volume, temperature, pressure, and then entropy. Okay? And then if you notice here in this equation, the left-hand side of the equation are all energies. Okay? Dito internal energy as stated here. And then we have enthalpy as stated here. Then we have Helmholtz free energy. Okay, this one. And Gibbs free energy here. Okay, so we're gonna write the energies that are involved in the Maxwell relations. So the energies are internal energy, enthalpy, Helmholtz, indicated by A, and then Gibbs. Okay, and then there is actually a mnemonic here. So if you're gonna form a box, let's say let's form a box here. Dapat yung energies mo nakapagitna sa mga properties. Pero paano mo malalaman kung ano yung arrangement? Well, meron tayong tinatawag na Vatog ship here. So, meron tayong V, and then there's an A, and then P, T, sorry. And then U, and then G, and then ship, which is, but we don't have an I here. So, it's just S, H, and P. Kaya siya tinawag na Vatog ship. If you notice here, yung mga energies natin, yung Helmholtz, Gibbs, enthalpy, and internal energy are all in between the properties. Tapos yung properties natin ay nasa corner of the box. So, corners siya. Okay? So now what we're gonna do is you have to draw an arrow between the corners from P to V and then from S to T. And that is to indicate na ang P mo ay related sa volume while temperature is related sa entropy. Okay? Para sa Maxwell relation natin. So, the method that you have to follow in order to derive this four equations here is you have to start with the energy. Okay? So, let's start with Gibbs. Okay? And here, yung lahat sila ay indicated by the change. So, D is for the change. So, we write DG. DG, right? And then, saan nakapagitna yung G? Sa T and P. So, pressure and temperature. It means to say that your Gibbs free energy is a function of temperature and pressure. Na yung temperature and pressure yung nagbabago sa system when we're talking about Gibbs free energy. Okay? So, meron tayong delta T and delta P. Okay? Now, we have to know, saan naka-connect yung T? It's in entropy, right? But then, here, saan nakaturo yung arrow? It's pointing at T. But then, if you're gonna start at T, kasi yun yung function na nagbabago here, when we're talking about the Gibbs free energy, if you want to connect it to S, you have to go backwards from the arrow. You're going from the tip here of the arrow to the tail. And that actually indicates negative kasi you're going backwards. And therefore, it's negative. So for that, you have to indicate negative S. And then for P, it is connected to V. But then you have to go from the tail of the arrow to the tip. And that is positive. So it is positive VdP. If we're gonna check here, dito sa equations natin, yung Gibbs free energy natin ay negative SDT plus VdP. Therefore, it is correct, right? And next, we're going to focus on, let's say, Helmholtz free energy. So, saan nakakonect yung Helmholtz natin? Or saan siya nakapagitna? Nakapagitna siya sa V at sa T. So it means to say that the change in Helmholtz free energy is a function of temperature and volume. So yung functions na to, temperature and volume, yun yung nagbabago when we're talking about Helmholtz free energy. And then let's start with T again. From you begin at T, right? And then you have to go to S. But then you're going backwards from the tip of the arrow to the tail. So it is negative. Kagaya lang siya here, na ginawa natin sa DG. And then V, right? You're also going backwards kasi you're going from the tip of the arrow to the tail. Therefore, it is negative as well. So, saan siya nakakonect sa P? So, it's negative P. And if we're gonna check, yes, delta A is equals to negative SDT minus P dV. Therefore, it is correct. Okay? And next, we're gonna go with the internal energy. So, ang internal energy natin ay nakapagitna sa volume and entropy. So, it's a function of volume and entropy. Okay? But then, yung volume, saan siya nakakonect? Sa pressure. And again, you're going backwards. So, it is negative P. Okay? And then, S. Dito, nagsimula ka sa S, but then you're going towards T, and you're going from the tail of the arrow to the tip. And that is positive. Okay? You're not going backwards. You're going forward. You're following the direction of the arrow. Therefore, it is positive. Positive T. Kasi dito siya nakakonect. Okay? And is it correct? du is TdS minus PdV. Yes, it's the same. You just have to rewrite it like this. Is equals to TdS minus PdV. Therefore, it's correct. Okay? And finally, we have enthalpy right here. So enthalpy is dH, and it is a function of entropy and pressure. So it's ds and then dP. Okay? And then S is connected to T, and it's going towards T. It's following the direction of the arrows. It's positive T. And then for P, it is also following the direction of the arrow towards V. So it's positive VdP. And is it correct? Yes, it is both positive. And we've written the correct equation. So that is how you remember these four equations using this Vatag-ship mnemonic here. And next, we're going to derive these equations here using the same mnemonic that we used earlier. So, we're going to write the same mnemonic here. Let's see. So it's V, and there's A, and then there's T, and there's U, and then there's V, and then S, H, and P. But here, we're not going to focus on the energies. Instead, we're going to focus on the four properties at the corners. And for V, you have to put negative, and then for T as well. Okay? And makita natin kung ano yung significance ng negative sign later. Okay? So first, let's start with T. Let's start with T. And the trick here is that you have to go from T in one direction first. Either, whatever you choose. It's T to V to S. Okay? You have to write the partial of T over the partial of V at constant entropy is equal to, ano yung hindi niya nadaanan sa apat na to? It's the pressure, right? You start at the property na hindi nadaanan nung arrow natin here. But then this time, you have to go the opposite directions from P, and then you have to take 3 steps, like here. Ito, 1, actually 2, 1, 2. This one, you have to take 2 steps also. 1, 2. And saan ka huminto? Sa V, right? So you have to write the partial of P over the partial of S at constant volume. But since you stopped at the property na may negative sign, you have to put negative sign in here as well. And can we verify? Is it correct? So the partial of T over partial of V at constant S, yes, over is equal to the negative partial of P over partial of S at constant V. And yes, it is the same, and therefore It's correct. So next, you can start at whichever you want. Okay? So let's start at T again, but this time, let's go the opposite direction. Kanina, we went from T to V to S. This time, let's go from T to P to S. Okay? So we go this way. Okay? So we write the partial of T over the partial of P at constant entropy is equal. And ano yung hindi niya nadaanan? Hindi niya nadaanan yung volume. So that's where you start this time. But then you go to the opposite direction. So the partial of V, partial of S at constant P. Okay? So the partial of V over the partial of S at constant pressure. And is it the same? Yes. You can see that it's the same here. Okay? Now we start at another property. Nakompleto na natin yung P at both directions. And yung P, isang P at isang V. We can start from V here. Let's start from V, but then this time, let's go the other direction. So, kanina, we started from V to S to P. Ngayon, gawin natin V to T to P, okay? So, the partial of P, V. Ganyan. The partial of V over the partial of T at constant pressure is equal. So, ano yung hindi niya nadaanan yung S, right? So, you start from S here, and then opposite direction. So if it went this way, it goes the other way. So from S to P to T. And since it stopped at T, you have to put a negative sign again. So negative of partial of S over partial of P at constant temperature. And is it correct? Yes, it is the same here. Okay. And finally, let's check first kung alin yung hindi pa natin nadadaanan here. So, ano yung hindi nadaanan? We have two T's. We started at T twice, clockwise and anti-clockwise. So, check na yan. Yung volume, yes, dalawa na siya. So, ano yung hindi nadadaanan here? T and S na lang. So, we start at P, okay? Pero ito kasi, P to S to V. So, let's go the other way this time. From P to T to V. Okay? So, since it stopped at V, it will be negative. The negative partial of P over partial of T at constant volume, okay, is equal to, ano yung hindi nadaanan? Yung entropy, S. And since it went this way, let's go the other way. From S to T, S to V to T, okay? So, since it stopped at T na negative, we have to put negative sign as well. Negative partial of S over partial of V. At constant temperature. And since negative appeared on both sides, we can cancel it off. And therefore, the partial of T or partial of T at constant volume is equal to the partial of S over the partial of V at constant temperature. And is it correct? Yes. Partial of P over the partial of T at constant V is equal to the partial of S at over partial of V at constant T. And that is our last Maxwell equation that we have derived. And that is how you remember the Maxwell relations using this mnemonic here. So I hope you guys learned a lot from today's video. Thank you for listening and stay tuned for the next one. Bye-bye.